According to my Steam achievements, I first started playing Skyrim on November the 15th, 2013. I was 10 years old. And since that time, I've spent 2,114.9 hours on the original Skyrim and 885.3 hours on Skyrim Special Edition, which, added together, equals 3,000.2 hours combined playing Skyrim, or roughly, around 4 months of my life. Everyone I've told that figure to responds in either one of two emotions. It is either shock at the figure or some form of dismay and disappointment that I could have wasted my life away on this game for so long, which in turn kind of led me to the self-reflecting question of why? Why Skyrim? Why this game out of all others had I chosen to dedicate so much time to? God knows how many abandoned playthroughs are scattered among my save files. Each one I'd spent so much time in, only to scrap it all and start all over again. What makes Skyrim that captivating? To try and answer this question, I decided to go back to the basics, to the original Skyrim. Not Skyrim Special Edition, Anniversary Edition, Legendary Edition, Skyrim VR, Skyrim Ruby or Sapphire Edition, or even the Todd Howard Edition. I mean the original Skyrim. The one that launched on the 11th of the 11th, 2011, and isn't even available on the Steam page anymore, and choosing to play it vanilla, without any mods, just as our Lord and Savior intended, in order to rediscover just why I love Skyrim so much. I could easily go into a plethora of examples about why Skyrim was so successful in a broad sense, which would probably be something along the lines of the massive open world fantasy setting, the amazing fantastical medieval Viking-esque world you were dropped into and given free reign, the seemingly endless quests and the ability of having a completely different game experience depending on what type of player you are. For example, say if you've had a long day at work and just want to shut off your mind, play some video games and relax. Skyrim is the perfect game for that. It's so easy just to wander off to some random corner of the map, talk to some random NPC and delve into an entire questline, without ever entirely knowing what the hell is going on. And that's not a bad thing. I'm all for emotional and thought-provoking games, ones that tug at my heartstrings and make me reevaluate my moral standing and perception of the world. But that can be exhausting. I'm only human. I go through moods, and sometimes I want to experience being immersed in a video game without having to worry about all that. And that's fine. On the other hand, what if you do want an impactful game to play? What if you care about the relationships with the characters you meet? What if you want to min-max your playthrough, collect every weapon, every obscure Daedric artifact, and 100% every single city in the game? What if you want to shape the world around you with your decisions and see how the conflicts you begin or end directly impact the physical world around you, and the personalities of the people in it? What if you want to burn it all down or rebuild the world completely in your image? You can do that as well. And I'm sure many players would criticize how much impact Skyrim actually has with your, admittedly at times, shallow NPC conversations.
That doesn't go anywhere.
Copy-paste quests and dungeons, and the ability to become a walking demigod, but for some god's-forsaken reason this random kid in Whiterun still thinks she can beat you up.
What are you looking at? I'm not afraid of you, even if you are my elder. Boys, girls, dogs, elders. There's nobody I won't fight.
But that doesn't mean I'm wrong. Skyrim has just enough lore and world building, in my opinion, to create a perfect balance of not too shallow and not too overwhelming. If you're a nerd with too much time on your hands, like I am, you can spend hours chipping away at the seemingly endless rabbit hole that is Elder Scrolls lore. And trust me, it gets weird after a while. But if you don't want that, fine. No one says you have to. You can have just as enjoyable a game experience without realizing the Thalmor are manipulating both sides of the war. Isolde's running a drug ring, Miko's a good boy, the Dwemer disappeared and no one really knows where they went. The Thalmor are snow elves, Sheogorath is the hero of Kvatch from Oblivion, Maika's a liar, there's 5 bug jars in the game with mysterious writing on the bottom, there are continents outside Tamriel, the 2 moons in the night sky are remnants of a dead god, the stars aren't stars but holes torn through reality by other gods which makes the sun a really big damn hole in the sky, and the whole universe takes place inside the slumbering dream of the godhead. and realizing this either kills you or turns you into a lesser god yourself, depending on your definition. But I'm telling you, that doesn't matter. For someone like me, that's fun to know. It enriches my game experience knowing the world is alive and breathing, and right behind the curtains of my imagination, a million billion different events have transpired to mold the world into what it is I see before me. But in the end, if you don't know it, you lose nothing. And if you do know it, it doesn't really have to impact your game. I mean, your character is literally a blank slate for you to paint your personality onto. You can decide their class, favorite skills, weapons, magic, and what the backstory is, if any. Or you can leave it personally vague, it's entirely up to you. And that, in my opinion, is why I think Skyrim became so successful. It's your quintessential fantasy game. You don't have to know anything about it to get into it, and the more you learn, only enriches your experience. But some people seem to have a bad habit of shooting Skyrim down nowadays. Some of it could be tall poppy syndrome, while others do have some pretty valid criticisms. One of the things I rediscovered playing vanilla Skyrim is just how very buggy it is. Textures might not choose to load in, water clips everywhere, NPCs either wander off at pivotal moments or stop every 2 seconds when you try to follow them, physics is broken, dead bodies sometimes follow you as you fast travel and then clip into the floor, and some quests are just fundamentally broken. If you released a game in this state in today's world, it might honestly pass because the state of the game industry right now is just appalling. But it doesn't mean the criticism isn't valid. I have probably spent days of my life messing around with game files, troubleshooting game crashes, going through YouTube tutorials and walkthroughs, and utilizing console commands just to try and get this game to work. Which does lead me to the elephant in the room I've yet to talk about. It's no question that the modding community for Skyrim is probably the best in the world. The amount of content available, for free, I remind you, is absolutely staggering. Just trying to comprehend that thousands of people have taken precious time out of their day to make this game that I also love look a little better or run a little better is incredibly wholesome and creates this great sense of community that I've never seen before anywhere else. And they are incredibly skilled. I mean, I say a little better, but in reality, the kind of stuff they get up to is amazing. That is, if I conveniently leave out the NSFW content. But that doesn't take away from its achievement. Honestly, that side of the modding community is scarily strong. But many people have criticized Bethesda's over-reliance on the modding community. I mean, you can practically create a whole new game from the hundreds of mods you can download, and some just straight up tell you that this is a new game. But there is something to be said that your game is so loved that so many people want to add to it and modify it and create something new, while also saying your game is so fundamentally broken that your own fanbase has to step in to fix it. And to top it all off, when you decide to re-release your game in 2016, you make installing mods a reason to disable achievements? And instead, you divert players away from the free mods to your own paid mods on the Creation Club, which only then allows achievements in that case because you've thrown more money down the Bethesda drain. But of course this wasn't an issue for long, because the modding community made a mod to re-enable achievements. But my point still stands. How out of touch do you have to be as a company to know that your community is one of the largest and most active in the world, and then choosing to punish them for it? And this wasn't even a once-off either, they did it for Fallout 4 and Starfield as well. Like, it's one thing to do that if your game is polished enough where installing third-party content doesn't make that much sense. But at this point, your games require your modding community to survive. It's not my fault for expecting a $120 game to be polished upon release, when games like GTA 5 or Red Dead Redemption 2 both allow modding in single player, without disabling achievements. What other excuse is there? None at all. It's just greed, pure corporate greed, and the punishing of the consumer, because this is apparently the state of the game industry in 2025, where the games companies always know best apparently. Money is prioritized, quality is lost, and the average cost of AAA games in 2025 is $80. How does anyone think this is? Okay, rant over. Look, what I'm trying to say is, Skyrim is special. During this little adventure into nostalgic vanilla Skyrim, I was hit with very specific childhood memories that I hadn't even registered in years. Probably because the game I play now is normally modded to hell. But I don't know. It just really hit me that I know so much about this game. About the history of each location, the relationships of every character, about every single major quest in the game, and how to complete it as fast as possible. Most people know that after playing any game for a while, you normally just end up skipping dialogue because you know it so well and are sick of hearing it on repeat playthroughs. But this time, when I actually decided to sit and listen back to all the characters, I came to the terrifying realization that I know what every character is gonna say before they say it. Not just their lines, but their tone of voice, their cadence of speaking, all off by heart. Seriously, I'm not trying to be overly dramatic, but I've just spent so much time in this game and around these characters that this is the type of stuff a kid picks up upon. Something that now is permanent space in my brain. And while one may say this is just wasted time and energy, I don't. When you're a kid, and you find a hobby or skill, or something that really clicks and fascinates you, you dive right into it. Maybe for some people that's books, or sports, maybe it's movies, maybe it's an instrument. Maybe it's making your own music or making your own art. Or maybe, for the rest of us, it's video games. And even in 2025, there still seems to be a pretty large stigma around that. Someone hears that your passion or hobby is video games and they either imagine a greasy, obese, acne-riddled kid sitting on their computer for 18 hours a day or nothing else. It's just that. And honestly, I can't believe it's a controversial opinion to say that's not the case. Like, yes, of course those people exist. In any hobby, you'll always find a small percentage of people who have an unhealthy obsession with it. But as Isolde says,
a few bad apples spoil the bunch. You know how it is.
Trust me, I swear the rest of us aren't like that. In my case, I can say Skyrim kickstarted a bunch of new hobbies and skills I enjoy and use today. It led me into the fantasy genre, which led me to series like Lord of the Rings, which led me into world building, which led me into a love of fantasy maps, and then into a love of real world maps and geography, which then led into history and a love of politics and geopolitics today. It also led me to read those genre-defining books as well, which led to my love of writing, of storytelling, which ties into my love of cinema, of media in general, of the classic hero's journey and deep hidden meanings embedded behind every line of dialogue. God, I sound like an English teacher. Look, the point is, after replaying vanilla original Skyrim, I've just realized how much of a special place it holds in my heart. And while what I said previously is true, and that I can trace many of my real-world interests back not only to Skyrim but to many other video games, it really means much more to me. The criticisms are valid, but it's also true that sometimes after work, like I said, it's nice to come back and shut your mind off in a video game. But something else I realized, diving down Nostalgia Street, is that that's doubly true for a kid. For someone who's had a bad day at school or did bad on a test or assignment. Maybe someone whose friends were mean to them that day and they can't find the right words to explain or reconcile it. Or maybe someone who's just a bit overwhelmed with the world today, overwhelmed with their own mind and the endless amount of pressure society puts upon adolescents today. For that kid, Skyrim saved his life. It gave him an out. Somewhere to escape to when the insanity of reality just got a bit too much. When the chaos of life made no sense. And the lack of control was so overbearing that you just wanted to escape to some place where your choices meant something. Some may call that a comfort game, like how some people have comfort books or movies or TV shows. And while it may be something along those lines, I think that would be a gross misrepresentation of the impact it had on that kid's life. And ultimately, if someone asked my opinion after playing 3,000 hours of Skyrim, I would say you don't need to. I mean, obviously you don't need to. You definitely don't need to. But what I mean is, any game or skill or hobby or interest, it's entirely what you make it. The hours, the time you spend doing it, it's all arbitrary. The only thing that matters, the only question that should count, is whether you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I don't know why you kept going back for more. And if you did, good. Perfect. That's all that should ever matter. The universal goal everyone should strive for, regardless of context, is happiness. And whatever that means to you. And if that thing gave you enough happiness that you went back to it for 3,000 hours, I'd say that was 3,000 hours well spent. And I don't regret a second of it.